Good morning. This is it, the start of a very, very long ride. Last coffee in Georgia, about to leave Batumi. Got in very late last night. The ride from Tiblisi to Batumi took much longer than I expected. Very tedious ride, but a gorgeous sunset. And then I came around to say hi to my friends and had a lovely evening with them and had a very late start to the morning. It's 11 a.m. Spin truck. Yes, it's 11 a.m. I had an alarm set for 7, and just before I fell asleep at about 1:30, I decided to turn the alarm off and just said, sure. Anyway, today crossing the border into Turkey. I had notions of trying to do Turkey from border to border in one day, which would have been about 1,500 kilometers. Would have been a tough day, but now it's just too late. I don't think it's possible. I'll have to stay a night in Turkey, which I didn't want to do, not because I have anything against Turkey, quite the opposite. In fact, I love Turkey. But I'm under time pressure. I have 6 days now to be in Croatia, and I have a small problem with Turkish data. I've lost my Turkish SIM, and it's like 50 quid to get another one, and I don't need all the data that it would come with, so yeah, I'm just not going to bother to buy a SIM card, which means I'm going to be without data, which is going to be a little bit awkward. Which is why I wanted to try and eliminate the need to sleep in Turkey. Anyway, I'll have to do one night somewhere. I don't know if I'll get a place or a wild camp without signal and data. I don't know. We'll see how the day transpires. Anyway, let's finish up this coffee and wake up a bit and hit the road. All that over there, that's occupied territory. You can't go there. All the little roads that are leading there, as soon as you turn off this motorway, it's checkpoints, these checkpoints. The Russians in 2008. So close. They're so close to this motorway, which is the main artery across all of Georgia, from Tiblisi to Batumi, the two major cities. Unreal how close it is. Hi, Georgia. Complicated place for sure.
Russian forces, including air, land, Georgians властей в Южной Осетии.
In August 2008, Russian land, air and naval forces launched a full-scale incursion into the Georgian border territories of South Ossetia and Abkhazia. Within 2 weeks, hundreds were dead, tens of thousands were displaced, and Russia achieved direct control over both territories, which it maintains to this day. It's considered to be the first European war of the 21st century. The first European war. But where does one war end and another begin? 2008, 2014, 2022. It's hard not to see this all as inevitable, as if we've seen it all before, because we have, only now it's our turn. That's the difference between learning history and living history. Fool me, you can't get fooled again. Turns out you can. The 8th of the 8th, 2008 has been called the return of history. It was Putin's first successful peace enforcement operation. You'd think by now we'd all know what a Putin peace looks like.
Samarjoba, Batumi. Blah. Okay, 6 days to go. Direction Istanbul. I suppose I should really say why I'm undertaking this trip, because during my past few videos I was always saying that I was heading east for an unspecified amount of time to somewhere, which was true. I got as far as Azerbaijan, and I had a vague idea to do a tour of the Middle East in the autumn, continue on from Azerbaijan to do Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and then back home to Ireland for Christmas. However, I'm not doing that, and there's a few reasons. First of all, and the main one is I got a work opportunity for November that I just couldn't turn down. Really good opportunity, and I'm looking forward to it, but that meant that I'd have to not do the tour of the Middle East. But yeah, I'm not too disappointed because the Middle East isn't going anywhere, hopefully. And yeah, this work opportunity is, I'm excited for it. Secondly is, towards the end of the last leg of the trip, from the end of Turkiye and around the mountains of Georgia, I was starting to lose a bit of confidence in the GS. The thought of taking it through the deserts and the extreme weather there and not having the means to fix anything, I was getting a bit nervous about that. And the old girl seems fine, but it's just that she seems fine. I'm not sure that she is. So I want to take her home to Ireland and do some work on her, get to know her a bit better, see what condition she is in, because I will be doing another long distance tour, an overlanding expedition in 2025. I know where it's going to be. It's going to take a lot of planning and a lot of saving up, but I want to take the GS, which is a little bit mad, but that's apparently what this bike was built for, so let's see if that's true. And thirdly, the reason why this trip specifically is happening is because I couldn't leave the bike in Georgia any longer. You have 90 days before you have to import it, and if you don't, they start to impose a fine. So I had to get the bike out of Georgia and into the EU, and that just happened to coincide with work in Croatia. So I was like, well, I'll just fly to Georgia and ride the bike to Croatia. It seems like the logical thing to do. So next stop, Croatia. Assuming we get past the Turkish border, no problem, I'm sure it'll be fine. I think everything is in order. I don't actually have insurance to be riding here in Georgia at the moment, because it was only yesterday that I was going to be riding here, and just trying to buy insurance for 1 day in Georgia is... I mean, I'm sure it is possible, but probably be overpriced and hassle, and they probably wouldn't understand why you only want 1 day and such. So anyway, a little bit nerve-wracking considering Georgian drivers. Georgian drivers are second only to Italian drivers because the Italians make a performance out of it. You know, they have a whole mystique about Italian driving. Georgians, they don't have that. They just don't care. They just don't care. I think they genuinely are just bad drivers. They're not trying to make a sort of cultural, passionate exposition of identity out of their driving. They just don't give a shit. They will happily run you off the road. Absolutely no lane discipline. They will tailgate you within a foot. It's just bonkers how bad the driving is here. It is, and you see a lot of cars with no rear ends, kind of like this one, kind of like this lovely Range Rover here. Suspiciously bumperless on the rear. And unfortunately I have no brake light at the moment because the bulb blew, normal. However, the bulb is actually stuck in its housing, and I can't get it out. I've been recommended to just apply WD-40 periodically over a couple of days. And then my dad also said perhaps you might even have to just break the bulb and use pliers to get it out. But first I need to actually find some WD-40 in a garage and buy a bulb while I'm at it. So yeah, no brake light at the moment, which is a little bit awkward. Anyway, goodbye Batumi, goodbye Georgia. Let's get to the border. You'll see here a restored Roman fort. Yep, it is mind-boggling just how big that concept was, the concept of the Roman Empire. Not just conceptually, but physically too. You know, Their influence was here on the far side of the Black Sea. From here all the way to Britain. Like, oh my god, it just boggles the mind. Boggles the mind. There is evidence to suggest that there were Romans as far east as the Caspian Sea in what is today Azerbaijan, but nothing concrete. See what I did there? Probably could be just like some expeditions and such. Similarly, down as far as in the Persian Gulf. Yeah, man, they really did get everywhere. And that's really, I think, one of the most fascinating things about the Roman Empire is how you had this conceptual entity that stretched across such a vast territorial and geographical area, which encompassed so many different cultural and religious identities. I'm not saying it was an amazing thing, of course, you know, many problems with it, but it can be done. It can be done. Of course, I'm absolutely anti-imperialist. I'm not suggesting that at all, but it's just interesting in this world of borders and modern geopolitics how 2 millennia ago there was just one politic in this area. I could travel from here all the way home. Well, not quite. Ireland sort of escaped the hobnail boots of the Roman legions, but all the way as far as Western Britain, I could travel it all without a passport because I would still be traveling within Imperium Romanum. I'd still be traveling within the empire. Makes you think, makes you think. I don't believe it. It's actually the same guy on passport control as it was when I was entering Georgia 3 months ago. And I remember him because of how fucking grumpy and scrutinizing he was. He checked me over for about 4 minutes, looking back at my passport and looking at me down his nose. The thing about Georgia is a lot of the people are so friendly and generous and welcoming. And then a lot of the people look like and act like they would rather be sitting behind a Soviet desk signing off KGB arrest warrants. There's a changing of the guard. It's a generational thing. It goes for many things here in Georgia. Anyway, let's see if he gives me any shtick. Oh no, sure enough, he spent a good 5 minutes looking at me. Asked me to pull my hair back and everything, but now to be fair, I'm 17 in my passport photo. And yeah, he asked if I had Georgian insurance. I said no. He said 100 Larry fine. I was like, yeah, grand, because it's about 30 euro, which isn't much more than the insurance would have cost. And yeah, it's grand. Riding around Tiblisi yesterday before hitting the road to try and find an insurance office for less than 24 hours on the road probably saved the hassle. The real punishment was waiting in the queue for that chaotic bank. I've never seen so much paperwork for a 30 euro fine. Anyway, going to go through the next check now, and then we'll be into Turkiye. Yeah. Come on, gates, open up. Let me through. Turkiye. That's good. That is good. So it took nearly 2 hours, but a lot of that was with the insurance and buying insurance on the Turkish side. I had to buy it for 45 days minimum. It costs 1,500 lira, which is about 40 euros. So, yeah, please God we don't need it. Anyway. Now, it's time to put as many miles down as possible. Direction, Istanbul. Let's go! Well, I'm
20 kilometers inside the country and I already got a speeding ticket. The guys pulled me over and they said, "You were speeding." I said, "Impossible," because I wasn't. They showed me the thing and it said 101 kilometers an hour. I said, "Yeah, that's the limit." They said, "Oh, for motorbikes it's 90." Which I read about months ago when I was looking into motorbiking through Turkey, and people were saying on the internet, "Yeah, it's a legacy thing, it's hardly ever enforced." I think I just got unlucky with the one time it was enforced. So, I mean, it's utterly ridiculous. And 90, a lower speed limit for motorbikes and cars is actually unsafe for motorbikes. Yeah, it's just asking for trouble. And we won't be doing it for sure. But it's really easy because all the speed cameras are big bridges over the road, so you just slow down before them. So I'll just slow down to 90 and then go back to 100 because, yeah, that's dangerous, going slower than the cars. I think so anyway. And when I was learning to ride motorbikes, my official RSA trainer told us off the record, make sure you're moving slightly faster than the flow of traffic, because for bikers, we're safer when we're slightly ahead. That way, we're not rear-ended, cut off, or anything. We just need to move that little bit, just so we have the initiative, the momentum. The small little vehicles, we rely on getting out of trouble or avoiding it entirely. Anyway, I'm going to run through my entire budget on these flyings. And just to clarify, I said, so all the way through Turkey, it's 90. I said, yeah, all the way, even on motorways, where the regular speed limit is 100. So, go figure. Someone's speeding along at 130 as people do on motorways. They look down for a second at their phone, as people do here, and next minute they're into my arse. Not gonna happen. Not to me.
Whenever I begin a long distance ride, I find it hard to stop. Food, water and restroom breaks are only given into infrequently and reluctantly. I feel no tiredness, no boredom, only stiffness in my back and legs and growing pain in my wrist as the hours melt by. Of course, we'd love 10 hours of unbroken motorway to really hammer out the miles, but unfortunately, that's not what we get. And with no phone data, it's nightfall before I finally find a place to sleep. Good evening. Set up camp on the edge of a pine forest, beside a road down from some houses. That's why I've got the red light on. I'm speaking quietly. I don't really know where I am. I found this place in the dark, so all will be revealed in the morning. But yeah, it's just up from the road. I'm behind some bushes, and there's some houses up there, which is usually a blessing because it's usually potential safety, unless people of dubious moral character live in there, in which case it could be more of a curse. But anyway, Turkey is a very safe country, so I'm not too worried. But yeah, I don't know where I am because I don't have any data for maps. Oh, nothing like beans out of a can after a long day riding. A long day riding indeed it was. Fuck off, mosquito. I did not get as far as I expected or wanted. In fact, I didn't even reach my minimum acceptable checkpoint for the night. I am before the town of Samsun, which was, I wanted to get about 50 kilometers inland from that as my minimum. However, yeah, the road was just very tedious, very slow going. It wasn't a motorway, as I expected it was. I had no reason to expect it was. I just presumed in my ignorance that it was a motorway, but no, it wasn't. It was just like a 2-lane dual carriageway, but with traffic lights and constant Like it was, the entire Black Sea coast is pretty much populated. So it was like, if anyone knows, it was like 500 kilometers of the N11, just stopping, a lot of stopping, and traffic was, it was quite a lot of cars on the road. So I'd say we probably averaged about 90 kilometers an hour all the way, with again lots of stops. And then in the small segments that there were no towns, there was so many speed traps, so many. Yes, and of course I got my first ever speeding ticket today after 6 years of riding. My first ever comes just inside the border of Turkey. God, yeah, I'm still annoyed about that. Still annoyed about it. Like, they could have let me off with a warning, because nowhere does it say, like, okay, the only reason why it struck a bell with me is because this is something I read about 18 months ago and had since completely forgotten about, because in the nearly 8 weeks that I was riding around Turkey earlier this year, I was just riding normally and was stopped by police a lot, because they have these sort of mobile checkpoints where they just pull cars over, and they always pull me over. So at this point I actually start pulling in before they even wave me in, because they just see a motorbike and they pull me in. But they usually just look at the bike, ask where I'm from, and then let me go. So they could have let me go with a warning, because if you did not know that there was this ridiculous rule that I had never seen enforced, and from what I had read online, also lots of people had never seen enforced, of motorbikes actually being capped below the speed limit, then it's completely unfair. Because the checkpoints, the speed traps are very obvious. I went through at 100 kilometers an hour. Like, you'd have to be an idiot to be caught speeding, because they're big bridges with cameras on them. Like, you just slow down before them if you're speeding, and then you speed up after them. Duh. But considering it was like 20 kilometers inside the border, I was like, the guy said you were speeding, and I said that's impossible. He showed me, he said you were going 101. I was going, yeah. And he says, motorcycle 90. Yeah, it's annoying. And the more I think about it, it's not so much the 40 quid I have to pay, but it's the principle of it. Like, a foreigner comes into the country, they don't know this obscure rule that makes no sense anyway, and they're caught within 20 kilometers without knowing it, because there is no sign saying motorcycles are capped. Let them go with a warning. Tell them that it's 90 on all the roads, and then let them go. They're going to be a lot more receptible to following the Turkish rules of the road, I think, as opposed to being pulled over immediately upon entering the country and being slapped with a ticket for something they didn't know. But I suppose when I was thinking about it, like, it's just, I think it speaks to the disincentivization for people in all walks of life and professions to actually think for themselves, which is something that, policing in my idealistic vision should be a service for the people, not an enforcement of the state. Now, I studied politics in university, and lots of people would disagree with that, but we're not talking about reality. I think I'm talking about idealistically, the police should be there to serve the people, not the state. And I think that should be the mindset that any potential police officer enters the profession thinking or accepting. Therefore, if you're a police officer and you stop a biker who is going at what they think is the limit just inside the country, you say, okay, hang on a minute, just so you know, you were caught, I'm letting you go with a warning, but these are the rules, follow them. But I think that cops probably don't think like that anymore, because they're told what to do and they do it, and they don't need to think about any sort of proactive or active policing, shall we say. I don't think it's just police. I think that's pretty much every walk of life. But it's particularly dangerous with the police, because as soon as the police become, let's say, automated robots of state will, then it's fine if you live in a peaceful democratic country. But what if you don't, and the police then become just like a little private military force? Or even if you live in a peaceful democratic country, the police start shooting black people and beating student protesters. Have I said too much? I don't know. Anyway. Just my little rant at the end of a long day riding. Man, these beans are good. Anyway, so got a lot of miles to make up for tomorrow. It'll be up with the crack of dawn, hit the road, get coffee on the way, and just hammer it out. I really hope the motorway starts somewhere, because I'll be another night in Turkey without any data. If it's 90 all the way, like, that's ridiculous. Anyway, I'm going to leave this here. This could be the last, one of the last nights in the tent. This tent has served me so well. There you go. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed, rant and all. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you very soon for the next stage of the very long trip. Good night.